Welcome to The Color of Music, a podcast series that delves into the vibrant stories of musicians who have shaped the world with their passion, dedication, and artistry. We are recording today from the auditorium of the Nelson Centre of Musical Arts in Nelson, New Zealand. And we'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the staff at NCMA for their continued support. In the episode, we're thrilled to be joined by Lucy Rainey, accomplished musician with a rich and varied career as a talented clarinetist, saxophonist, and vocalist. Lucy has performed across classical, jazz, and world music genres, with both within New Zealand and internationally, with a deep passion for teaching and a commitment to nurturing young talent. She has directed numerous ensembles and choirs while also maintaining a highly regarded solo career. Welcome, Lucy. I have been looking forward to having you as a guest in our podcast series. I will start by asking some questions about your musical journey. You started playing the clarinet at 8 years old and have since explored various musical paths. What initially drew you to the clarinet, and how has your relationship with the instrument evolved over the years?
Oh, Todd, well, thank you for your warm welcome. It's lovely to be here. At eight years old, my father decided to take up the clarinet with me. And so we learnt together for a year or so, and then he actually dropped off a little bit, and I continued. And it may be something to do with the fact that my mother used to play the Mozart clarinet quintet very regularly at home, but it was always in my psyche, in my world. And luckily for me, I just loved it. I fell in love with it, and I'm still in love with it.
Wow. You perform both classical and jazz music, and even ventured into world music. How do you navigate these different musical styles, and what do you find most rewarding in each?
Wow, gosh, that's a broad question.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess I think there's something very fortunate about being a clarinet player, actually, and that we are able to cross boundaries in terms of the ensembles we play with. So we can be 1 minute in an orchestra, and another minute we can be in a klezmer band, then we can be in a clarinet group, we can be playing with a piano. We can play a little Benny Goodman jazz. So we are very fortunate in just that instrument allows us, because I think it's very much related to the voice. It's kind of a mouthpiece for emotion, if you like, and but it's just very versatile, and it's small enough that the instrument can be carried from a variety of different groups. So that lends itself naturally to wanting to play jazz, to wanting to play klezmer, to wanting to play world music. And although I spent more time doing professional studies on clarinet, I also was lucky to be able to sing. And rather than just staying in classical choirs, I was very drawn to finding out more about world music. So that was an opportunity that came my way too.
Was that with Mosaic?
Yes, I did sing with Mosaic a little bit here.
Yeah.
And of course the wonderful civic choir, the Nelson Civic Choir here.
Yeah, I used to sing with Mosaic myself. Yeah.
Mosaic's great. Yeah. So world music. And when I was in Wellington, there was a wonderful chap called Julian Raphael who was taking the Wellington Community Choir, and I had the opportunity of singing in that. And I think he would have had a minimum of 100 singers at any one time, and at times up to 200 singers in a hall. And he would provide incredible music for us to do, ranging from Celtic music through to gospel, through to South African, wide range, variety and range of music. It was fantastic.
Wow. Now I'm going to get into some other areas you're also interested in. You've been praised for your Gershwin performances, and I listened to a few and they were very well done, both the clarinet and vocally. What is it about Gershwin's music that resonates with you, and how do you approach blending classical and jazz elements in this work?
Oh, well, Gershwin, of course, is an incredible composer. He was able to pull together so many elements. It's a melting pot, his music, but it's emotional. And the combination of him writing with his brother Ira, the fabulous lyrics combined with his fabulous sense of harmony and abilities on the keyboard, just make his music. It just gets under your skin. You just have to play it. It's wonderful, and it's so well written for in orchestras, for clarinet and saxophone. There are so many arrangements for voice. Of course, they're performed all the time, aren't they, by jazz musicians? Yes.
Wow. You performed in a wide range of settings, from solo recitals to large orchestra and jazz ensembles. Is there a particular performance that stands out in your memory, either because of the music, the venue, or the audience?
Oh, wow. Well, it was very special having the opportunity to perform the clarinet concerto here with our own Nelson Symphony Orchestra. And so, yes, that was extremely special to do that, because I normally play first clarinet in this orchestra, so it was a very nice occasion. And I had also that opportunity to perform one of those movements in an opera in the park here. I guess must have been around the early 2000s, something like that.
Can you talk about your role in New Zealand choral and music education scene, particularly with organizations like the New Zealand Choral Federation, which you are a Nelson Marlborough Region chairperson?
Oh, goodness, yes. Well, the New Zealand Choral Federation, for those who don't know about it, is an organisation that started in 1985. Guy Jansen was very instrumental in getting that off the ground, but a whole raft of fabulous people got together and decided that they wanted to promote singing across New Zealand. So their ethos is singing, New Zealand as a singing nation. So we're separated into regions all around the country, and each region is asked to put on various events. So we put on the Big Sing for the secondary schools students annually, which is a very successful event. It's probably the most important musical event in the secondary schools calendar, I would say, or one of the most important. And we also run the Kids Sing, and that's for the primary school children. And that's a very important one to be doing at the moment, because I believe after COVID that was very difficult for schools to maintain the music programs to the level that they had previously. So the fact that we can put an event up, it hardly costs them anything to enter. We do all the organising, and the children just have to come along and perform and have a great day together, and then maybe sing some massed songs together. So they enjoy that. They all come together and have great fun, and we arrange the massed songs too. So we try to keep it very low key from the input from the teachers, so that it's not so much extra stress, but make it a really worthwhile event. And then the other thing that we run annually is the Summer Sing Fest, and that's for all our wonderful community choirs in Nelson and all around New Zealand. Every region is charged with organising these events. And yes, we just put an invitation out and we say we've got a date, we put an umbrella over that date, and we book some venues, and we try to encourage as many of our local community choirs, including all of our multicultural choirs. We particularly want to make sure that all our multicultural communities feel part of this event.
Wow. Well, I kind of dovetail to that one, answer too. You've directed many young musicians and choirs over the years. What is the most rewarding aspect of teaching music to you personally?
Oh my goodness, where do you start? Well, first of all, Todd, I'm incredibly blessed and lucky to have had a life in music, I think, and for a start, it's a gift. If you enjoy music, you just feel this natural sense of wanting to share it with others because you can see the benefits. So, and it really is that feeling of kind of accepting the light and passing it on, I think. So I've been very, very lucky to, as you said, teach children and then right through to adults. At the moment, I have some wonderful adult students because the NCMA is promoting classes for students, and as you probably know, and I find that the adults coming in their middle to senior ages are so motivated, and very often it's something they've wanted to do earlier in life and it wasn't possible, and now they get the opportunity to come to this wonderful place here and have these lessons, and they just blossom and grow, and we've got some fantastic clarinet groups here with that kind of thing going on. But the other thing that I think is fascinating, and you'll be aware of this too, there's been a lot of research into how the brain works. And have you seen results of that at all? Because the latest research shows that if you're a performing musician, and that means a singer as well, but if you're on an instrument or you're performing, playing piano or percussion or brass or clarinets or whatever, the brain is actually firing in many different places. It's quite fascinating. I've read that it's like lighting up like a Christmas tree. And so you've got to think, well, if it's doing that, what effects is that having on other parts of people's lives? And I would say that my impression is that once people are given the opportunity to learn music, it highlights all sorts of good things in their lives, including with children. It really helps them with their learning. So it helps with the discipline and the support required for learning difficult new topics, and also for retention of that information. But it just gives them a much broader ability, I think, to take information in, and also tends to lift their mood. And I think that's a fantastic one, because I notice this with adults too. I think it's partly to do with the social connection through being involved with music, but there is something inherent about this, the brain lighting up like a Christmas tree, that we can't help but feel inspired, and the day goes better.
Wow. So this still relates to that, as you've held numerous leadership roles, such as directing the Sun City Big Band and clarinetin work,
Yes.
German, clarinet
Yes.
work.
Yes.
What do you enjoy most about leading musical ensembles, and how do you approach fostering creativity within a group?
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting. I don't know where you found out about that Sun City Big Band, but when I first arrived in Nelson, that was my very first project, my musical project. I had married my wonderful husband, Bill, who also plays the same instruments as I do. So he plays the clarinet and the saxophone. And so he and I took that project on together. And that was so much fun. And we gathered all the young players around, and I remember photocopying loads of music and putting folders together. So because there wasn't a great deal of that going on, so we suddenly had all these packs of music, and then we started to get quite a few gigs. And I used to treat that as a little bit of a training ground, because I really wanted to give the young players, particularly young saxophone players and young brass players and percussion players and so on, an opportunity to upskill with that.
I'm glad you talked about that. That was really interesting. Whether in chamber groups or jazz bands, collaboration seems to play a significant role in your work. See, I know you. How has playing with others influenced your musical growth, and what do you think makes a great musical collaboration?
Wow, you're right about collaboration. Yes, I think that probably most of your musicians that you're interviewing would agree that you're in that Zen moment when you're working with other musicians and you're all on the same page. You know, it just is fantastic feeling. And I guess it's like anything in life. If you play tennis, you want to play with a better tennis player, and then you feel like you're growing. And if you're a musician, you want to be always working with that person who's just that bit better than you, or going to lead you in a new path or a new direction. It's always so interesting. But then there's the other side to that where, you know, it's just great to pass back, as we were saying before with the teaching. You know, you're passing it down the line the other way as well with your students. So it's very much a two-way thing. It's an amazing life, and you probably feel that too, don't you, Todd? That we're very gifted very lucky to have music in our lives.
I am quite fortunate with that, and also here in Nelson, who would think little old New Zealand would have the wealth of talent that exists here, you know?
Yes.
And to get to be part of it.
And I think too, you know, this Nelson Centre of Musical Arts really it is a little gem around the whole of New Zealand.
Yes.
And I have been lucky to spend time in other centres, and I can honestly say this one is exceptional. Other centres have wonderful music schools, but they're attached to universities generally. This one is not attached to a university, it's a community facility. And I believe we have close to 700 students here, and I think about between 60 and 70 staff. I think it's amazing.
Yes.
For a small town, I mean, Nelson Richmond altogether is probably 100,000, so, or perhaps slightly over, but it's quite remarkable, isn't it? And and as you know, we have people coming into this wonderful auditorium here, and the recital theatre, that's new recital theatre. It's used every day. Every day after school, there's children learning. Every evening, there's groups performing. There's national events. There's international events. There's local events. I mean, it's really extraordinary. We're very, very lucky to have it.
Well, I'm trying to do my part to expose the world to what we're up to. You know?
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
you are.
with our
Definitely
podcast
doing
series, we
that.
have a chance to do that.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
More back about you. As a performer, teacher, and ensemble director, what advice would you give to aspiring musicians looking to build a career as diverse and fulfilling as the one you've had? Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, there are choices. You have to make choices, don't you? If you find music is your passion, I think you probably don't have a choice. Actually, you have to follow that. You have to follow your heart. And as musicians know, it's not always the most financially beneficial path. And you might in later life think, oh, maybe I would have been sensible to go off and do something else professionally. But, you know, you just get to work with wonderful people in wonderful settings, and it's a positive. It's a positive world, I believe. It's very positive. And I talk to people who are in other professions, and I know it's not always that positive for them. You know, they can have issues with that. So I think to encourage somebody who has a real passion, obviously you've got to work hard, but you're talented, so you just keep going with it. You take all the opportunities you can for good teachers. You jump at all those opportunities to play and perform, and you say yes. You know, you get an opportunity, you dive in and you take it, and that's the way you grow as a musician. And that's what I would encourage everybody to do, really.
With such a varied career, what are you currently working on? And is there any exciting projects or performance you can look forward to in the near future?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm currently working quite closely with my clarinet groups, actually, who are doing very well. Um, and I'm looking for a performance opportunity for them at the end of next term. And I'm also quite keen to develop a small a cappella singing group. I keep saying this, and the years just disappear, so I think it's going to happen next year. But yes, I have some music, a lot of music at home that I don't have a chance to get to, and I would really like to. Actually, quite a lot of it is by Dick Sharon. You would know probably who he is. Fantastic a cappella writer from the States, and I went to one of his classes recently.
Introduce some of that to Jason.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, as we wrap up this podcast, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
Well, I might just talk a little bit more about the New Zealand Choral Federation, because it is quite extraordinary, because apart from those three events that we run each year, the national board also runs some extraordinary events. And for example, I brought along some pamphlets to share with you, but just last year, for instance, they ran something called Sing Aotearoa in Auckland, which was all around Māori and Pacifica music, which was a fantastic event. They run the Choral Connect, which is to promote our conductors and lift their conducting ability across New Zealand. And we were very lucky to have many excellent international musicians zoomed into our Choral Connect conference. So that's just something that happened in 2023. This year we had an extraordinary event called the World Choir Games. And unfortunately, our civic choir was not able to get up for it, but it was a big expense. But it was an incredible event in Auckland. 42 countries sent their choirs, their top choirs along, and it went over the period of 10 days. Auckland was absolutely buzzing with these choirs from all parts of the globe. And they had an incredible opening ceremony, a closing ceremony. I was lucky to be part of the closing ceremony with 700 other singers. Wow. It was really exceptional. And that was organised very much by New Zealand Choral Federation.
Great. Lucy, thank you for giving us insight into your journey and influence. It's been a real pleasure having a conversation with you, and I look forward to more.
Thank you, Todd. It's been really fun.